it's time for World Politics. We're going to bring in Jim Ead. We'll see if anybody else joins us as well. A lot of people are still to this day talking about that debate and how the debate went and all along those lines. I've actually got a conversation point. I see that Rick Roslin is about to join us as well. So we got two of the California people, and we'll see if anybody else joins us. But I know that something that has come up into this conversation, and I've been actually talking to some people on Facebook, and sometimes I think that they might be part of what I'm going to bring up and all along those lines, just based on the way that they answer and everything. But one of the things that comes up in politics sometimes is the notion of AI, and AI can be a wonderful thing and all along those lines and all in that space. And I know there was images of I think that's part of the reason that Taylor Swift made her endorsement, was there was some AI images of her saying that she was supporting Trump, even though that wasn't the case. And now she's come out with her support of Kamala Harris and all along those lines. And like I said, I've been having some Facebook conversations with some new friends, acquaintances, or maybe just new strange people out in the ether and all along those lines. And sometimes when they are responding, you can almost tell that it's AI because the way that the answers come, they don't seem like they are actually hearing what you're saying, or they're responding to what you've written versus actually coming up with an actual answer that makes sense and everything. So I'm going to bring in some of my folks and see what they've got to say about this notion of AI and AI even corrupting politics and the social life. I've got two folks from the whole California area, and of course I've got Jocelyn Starr as well over there in Canada. So we've got North Carolina represented, we've got California represented, and we've got definitely like I said, California, Canada, and of course North Carolina. But I just wanted y'all's take on that, because like I said,
all right, so the stupidest thing is the Haitians eating cats and dogs and ducks. And if you pay money to Elon Musk to get a fancy version of Twitter, it'll make images for you. And idiots are using AI, Twitter's AI tech, to make pictures of Trump saving ducks and cats from Haitians. It's so freaking stupid. And one more dang stupid thing. Trump just announced today he's starting his own cryptocurrency.
Oh, he going to say his own cryptocurrency? Well, I knew there was others that had famous cryptocurrency, and I know Sasha's not a big fan of it, and others aren't either and everything. But I just wondered, you do bring up a good point, because I've seen some good Instagram and other kind of posts where they are, even on the other side. I think I showed one of y'all one of those where they had a dog that had like an orange outfit, and that was Fanta, which is a soda drink, and another one that had a red outfit that was the Coca-Cola. So it was basically saying that cats and dogs have to camouflage themselves in the area of in Ohio.
I have a strategy. I tweeted this out, that you take your pet, if you're worried about your pet, you shave its head so it looks like Stephen Miller, Trump's little Nazi dude. And people will be so filled with loathing that they'll stay far away from it, and it'll be safe. But James has a show about being calm and zen about things. I just found out about the cryptos. I don't understand. I can't stay zen about. He's supposed to be running for president to keep himself out of prison. He can't even pay attention to that. He has to start one more scam with 50 days to go.
Yes, well, like you said, he's got 50 days to go and everything along those lines. Hey, Jim, and I do feel I'm going to hear from you too, Sasha, and everything. But what is your thoughts about this? Because it's been quite funny, because I recognized it after a while, because I was going back and forth with a conversation with a couple of new friends in Facebook and everything. And when I was reading the answers, I'm going like, you're not really answering me. You're answering what the computer's answering me, what it thinks it wants me to hear, and all along those lines. So that's when I could tell that it was probably being AI generated and not the person actually writing their sincere thoughts and all along those lines. And I'm sure that even there in California, you've probably run across people that have done that as well, where you're having a conversation, and at some point in the conversation, you can tell that it isn't the person that responded to you, it's AI.
Well, Donald Trump is one of the better scammers. He's been a con man all his life, and con people successfully. But he's not sophisticated in the way he does it. He'll go the way of Trump University, Trump vodka, Trump whatever. He thinks his brand is worth so much, but I think everything he touches crumbles and turns into something you have to mop up. And but we're just on the cusp of the AI revolution, and you can tell right now it's AI talking to you, but soon you won't be able to. They're getting so sophisticated, and the AI scammers are so much I think you could fool some of the people all the time, yeah, but you can't fool all of them all the time. And people are catching on that Trump is a con man. People will catch on to the latest AI scams because they're not as good as they're going to get. So what we have to worry about is how good it becomes, and take the appropriate actions. And there will be protective actions that grow along with the threat.
Yep, it makes sense. Hey, Sasha, what's your take? Because I had not heard this yet about and like I said, I've got friends, even though they have lost a lot of money. Well, I think a lot of people around the world have lost money, even though some countries they have won money. But I did not hear until Rick just mentioned it to us on this show about Trump coming up with his own cryptocurrency. Even though I know there were other people that are trying to come up with U.S. cryptocurrencies and everything. And I was just wondering your thoughts around this, and also your thoughts around, speaking of AI. Apparently, this is a real image, but I get it what he was trying to do, because he was trying to be diplomatic. But apparently, Biden donned a MAGA hat at the 9/11 celebration, and all along those lines. And I'm sure that the MAGA people are taking to the media and showing that image of him. But I also know that sometimes people will do that just in general, like there are sports teams that will exchange jerseys and everything as part of the competition. So I'm thinking that was something that he was doing in that diplomatic kind of flavor. But what is your take on
being funny? A MAGA person handed him a hat for him to autograph. He was like, I'm not going to autograph this hat, but I'll put it on for a second. And he was laughing, and because there's maybe he's got Parkinson's. I don't know. He's moving slowly, but his brain still works.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it was just being funny. The guy's a decent human being, which you can't say for Trump.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking about cryptocurrency, yesterday I had a conversation on the phone with a friend of mine, and he didn't understand anything about cryptocurrency whatsoever, and the only subject it came because he also has background being born in Soviet Union, and we were discussing Pavel Durov situation, and cryptocurrency obviously came into discussion, and he asked me to explain the best I can what is a cryptocurrency, why it exists, what it serves, and how it works, and so on. So I'm probably not the best to explain all that, but I have at least a little bit of knowledge, and I had direct experience a while ago with cryptocurrency, which was fortunately ended very well for me at the end of the day. But nevertheless, so I was trying to explain that the cryptocurrency, specifically we discussed Bitcoin as the biggest and the best known currency. So he was asking me, so what let's see, Bitcoin costs now, as you say maybe $55,000. I don't remember what's the latest one. And then okay, so let's see if you are selling your Bitcoin. So you're getting from somebody $55,000. We understand what's the nature of $55,000, what you can do with that. You can buy a pretty good car with this money. You can make down payment on some property, maybe, or whatever. But whoever got one Bitcoin in exchange for $55,000, what he's getting, why is there any value? What represents this value? Is it equivalent to so many ounces of gold, or so many loaves of bread, or what exactly is it? I was trying my best for an hour and a half, and I was explaining this is a combination of special codes that you have to generate, and you have to use so much time to do it, and you have to use so much energy, and so on. And he said, okay, all these codes plus energy, I still would prefer $55,000 time and energy whatsoever there is. So for an hour and a half, I didn't succeed. I couldn't explain it. I'm not the best explainer.
Well, like I said, and I don't know that I'm the best either. Maybe Rick or maybe even Jim have an idea. I do have some friends that, like I said, have been involved in it. My understanding, and like I said, I know some people are excited about it, some people are not excited, but there have been people for years that have been concerned about the way that finances are centralized, whether that's Wall Street or whether that's the banks and everything like that. And it's my understanding that the purpose of cryptocurrency was to kind of break the monotony, break the kind of like power hold of those big banks, and kind of like make it easier for people that don't have kind of the resources that the rich have, in order to decentralize it and make it easier to invest. Now, whether that is actually how it works, or whether that actually is a correct theory, and I'm probably paraphrasing it, like you just said, Sasha, much worse than those that are in that space would. But that is my understanding, is that they are frustrated by the power of the financial institutions and all along those lines, and they want to kind of like find a way to disrupt. I mean, you can look at Occupy and things like that, to disrupt the system and make it a little bit more, I hate to use this term, but level playing field. And that's what I understand it is the appeal of cryptocurrency, but it's also partially the appeal of the lottery and the appeal of a number of other things where people are trying to find a way to make quick money. But if that sounds fairly similar to what you've heard, Jim, because like I said, I know I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but like I said, I've got friends in that space and they would probably do a better job. But I always hear them talking about decentralization.
Yeah, I'll respond later, but Rick has his hand up. And Rick, you're muted. You're muted, Rick.
Sorry, I'm in a flight path from Burbank Airport, so when planes go over, I try to mute. But
I got you.
So banks do good things and bad things.
Right.
Banks provide security,
Yeah.
but banks do things like redlining and all sorts of not loaning to you. So yeah, crypto attempts to do some of the provide the security banks do without some of the bad things that banks do.
Yeah.
But I've got an idea. I just have this idea that every new enterprise is a Ponzi scheme until it proves itself. That you're trying to convince people that your thing is a good thing. And if you can convince enough people and they all agree and you start showing profits, then it takes off, not a Ponzi scheme. You convince people, invest in me, it'll be great. Enterprise fails, it's a Ponzi scheme. So it's probably the same way with crypto coins. Bitcoin is going to do fine, because it's the one that has the most confidence from people. It's the most well known. But I don't know, I bet you there have been more than 1,000 coins started since Bitcoin.
No,
and maybe some will make it. Dogecoin a year ago, 2 years ago. Is that still around? I don't know. But Trump's deal it's all based on confidence in him, and we've seen what that does for Trump, for Truth Social. It's down 75%, and
everything he touches is down 75% at least.
Everything he's down. Hey, Jim, just really quickly, maybe you got a further explanation of everything, but to some degree, I'm going to go back in time and everything. But I know there's always efforts, kind of what I just said, to decentralize. If I go back to my parents' generation, and maybe even my grandparents' generation, there was this notion of something called a green stamp. And to me, that's kind of what maybe a Bitcoin is, because you will get a certain amount of stamps, you collect those amount of stamps, and then you can go to the store and get an item at a very discount price and everything. And I'm sure you're familiar with that because it was a national program, and I want to say it was maybe...
Yeah, I used to love and hate green stamps because, you go to the grocery, you spend, I don't know, back then, $12. Right. You get like a sheet of green stamps, and then you have to lick them and put them in a book and fill a book. And I don't know, I never did the math, but they couldn't have been worth much because you needed a whole...
If you remember A&P stores, I think you could turn them in there. But the idea of crypto in its conception is good in the sense that you want to decentralize, as you were saying, Mark. It's the same reason we have BRICS now. They say that especially the United States has too much control over the central banks and too much influence, and so they're trying to get their own currency established. Same thing with crypto, and Rick is right to point out that you don't want to be the slave to the banks, so you want to be able to do transactions that are verifiable and immediate, and these things are all good in concept, but it's the wild west out there, and unless you're the fastest gun, don't get involved. Right now, Bitcoin is secure because it's an investment. People are playing it on the market. Is Bitcoin going to go up? I can make money if it goes up. I can, lose money if it goes down, but I'm betting that it's going up. So it's an investment. Others have not reached that stature. Trump cryptocurrency will go the way of his other branding. His branding is very, very limited. And I don't think the wealthy people are going to fall for what's clearly another scam. But the idea of crypto, as I say, is good. But the execution, how many people have been charged with fraud? How many people have actually performed fraud in this area, and to large sums? I mean, we're not talking nickels and dimes. We're talking about people who have conned a lot of people out of a lot of money. So beware. It's a wild, wild west.
But Jim, along those same lines, there's another thing that is part of that Wild Wild West, but it's not cryptocurrency and everything. But I know a lot of people, myself included, that are very much into payment agencies or payment kind of like systems, and that they can be problematic as well. And some people would say that they're almost as bad as cryptocurrency. I'm thinking about like the Cash Apps of the world and the Venmos of the world and the PayPals of the world and everything. So I guess that's the more capitalistic version of crypto, because I do know that they've had some issues as well in the way that they are treated and don't do a good job. And I think that some people use them as a way to decentralize and even to have their money put into their accounts, because not everybody has the best bank account. So I even know some people that will put their money into NetSpend or some of the other apps that are out there like Cash App and a number of other ones. So I just wondering, is that maybe the more capitalistic operation of what is going on with crypto? Because it seems to me that they have some similarities in the fact that they can be used by a lot of scammers.
I'll defer to Sasha
Let
first.
Sasha go, and then I've got a story about sex crypto.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Okay, let's not forget that a lot of criminals and terrorists are using crypto, and only crypto, for the payments, for the child trafficking, for the purchasing of arms, and that's the only one currency what they are using, no other thing, because we are living in this civilized world, living in American-centered society or civilization, and there are ways where the payments are being made. I don't buy this thing that crypto is very convenient thing to transfer money or so on. No, the banks are much more efficient. If I want to do a wire transfer to anywhere to Europe or Latin America or just anywhere in the world, it's going to happen in the worst case scenario next day. In most scenarios, 15 minutes and you transfer the money. With Bitcoin, you have to acquire Bitcoin. You're being scammed on a spread between buy and sell. And on my transactions that I participated in, there was a total amount of 56,000 Canadian dollars. The spread was over $2,000. And that's the only way that you can acquire crypto. And of course, when you were buying back your dollars because the transaction didn't go away, I made money on crypto itself, but I was scammed on the fees, on the spread, because the advertising of that site, in fact, it was Canadian site, which says there are no fees. What they didn't say is that they have spread, which is much higher fees.
How do you define fees?
So, from what I understand, at least on my own experience, and following this, how it operates, it's a scam. This is a method for criminals use this way to acquire arms, weapons, to kill innocent people. What do you think these terrorists in Palestine and Hamas and all this Hezbollah and all this vicious idiots, what do you think they're using to acquire their weapons? They're using cryptocurrency, namely Bitcoin, but they want to have now their own currencies they would control. This was Pavel Durov was trying to do.
It's all
First
about
time,
control.
yeah, he got a lot of investments or so on, and he wasted all that, and he lost it all that. I don't know whether he was unsuccessful to create, or was it scamming his part just to take money from investors and run. And one reason he went to France, where he knew there was an order on his arrest, he was trying to save himself from there were quite specific
Worst thing that could happen to him.
Russian investors, and they wanted to use certain methods for him to come up with the money to pay them off. And the new cryptocurrency, whatever he will try to create for Putin, that will be a repeat of the same thing. Trump, it's even worse because he doesn't even understand what he's talking about. Who is next in line? Elon Musk? Remember, Elon Musk says that now you can buy Tesla and pay with Bitcoin, and then very soon he canceled that because he wouldn't find
folks are getting out of that coin space and everything. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly in that same.
Hold on, let me tell my story, and then
go ahead.
My wife and I watched the documentary on Ashley Madison, which was a company from 10, 12 years ago that supposedly made it safe to cheat on your spouse. Confidential, you can go on, you can sign up, you can secretly exchange messages from horny people and have sex with them. And they talked about their high security. And in the documentary, they revealed that this company, this fly-by-night piece of crap company, I think they're still in business under new leadership, had zero security from being hacked. And somebody hacked everybody, millions of guys mostly, on the site to flirt with women and ask them for sex. And everybody who signed up was outed. You know, it wrecked, I don't know, thousands of marriages. And they lied. They just lied about security. And also they lied about women, because 90% of the women that you thought you were flirting with weren't real. They were other employees who were pretending to be horny women. So that seems to me like crypto, that, you know, they some coin company can say, yeah, you're safe, but you're not freaking safe.
Yeah, but I sometimes wonder about that security anyway, because I know there's all these new companies, including the one that you're talking about, Sasha, that got in trouble. But I think there's one called Zynga and a number of other ones that always claim that they are encrypted and safer. But to your point, how much do you know that they are actually encrypted or safe, or do they have these safety measures, for lack of a better term?
Mark, excuse me, just one thing. There are a lot of people like yourself talking a lot about crypto as a protest against American domination and US dollar domination, okay? But you never, ever in your life purchased or sold crypto. Try to do that so you will better understand what you're talking about.
Well, I bought 100.
Hold on a second, Sasha. First off, I said that I have not personally done it. I have bought, I think, one item, so I have a little bit of an idea. You have a better idea, but I have a friend that specializes in it. So
I asked you 2 years ago to bring your friend to my program. I asked you 2 years ago. I'm asking you today. I'll ask you 2 years later. Bring your fucking friend on my show, and he will explain to me how it works, how he purchased crypto, how he sold crypto, how much money he made. Bring him on, please.
I will ask him, but I've also had.
Please do ask him.
I will ask him
Please
again.
do.
I've had some of my. I've had other people, including Nicole, that have been on this network, on the show, so we can go back and watch. They have explained it.
Bring them on. Bring them on, please.
It's not for the faint of heart.
I know it's not for the faint of heart.
I saw a tweet a month ago from Mark Cuban, who I respect because he's smart, and he said eventually Bitcoin will do the hockey stick thing. It'll go zooming up, and then it'll take off. So all right, I bought $100 worth of Bitcoin. It was complicated through my online broker. You have to do all this. There are all these steps, and then I've got an online bookie, and where I've been betting on the presidency, because generally, if you bet on the Democrat, you get pretty good odds because MAGAs are bad at math and they're lunatics. And they, but I ran out of money. I lost a bunch of money betting on Biden. And when it shifted to Harris, I wanted to put down more money, but it figured out that I'm in America where you're not really supposed to bet on the presidency. And I couldn't get money to him. So I'm like, all right, but I've got this Bitcoin and it's supposed to work, like you're supposed to do anything. And so I call my online broker and I'm like, can I buy anything with it's now down to $90 worth of Bitcoin? They go, no, it just sits there.
Well, I would like to say, I got a notification that Trump is going to refuse the second debate with
I didn't get that notification as well as he's going to refuse.
And is that unexpected? I think not. I mean, that was a horrible performance, I think. And, I think it's a smart move. And you're going to get a bump. Harris is probably going to get a little bump, then it's going to level off. Historically, that's true.
So according to the first couple polls out post debate, she's going to get maybe a 1% bump. I'm hoping that general, over the next few weeks, builds to a 2-point bump, which gets her beyond the Hillary zone where you win the popular, but you don't win the electoral. But here's my joke about Trump not doing another debate. He can't. He can only do worse because he's not mentally or physically up to the task. It's the same reason he quit raping.
Also, don't forget that he will be older for another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He will do even worse than the first.
I don't think Trump has been able to rape anybody in the last 10 years. I don't think.
No, he probably hasn't been able to do anything like that, and he talks that junk about shooting people. And he probably doesn't. I don't even know because actually Kamala admitted that she's got a gun. Do we know that Trump's got a gun? And if he does, I don't know if one would have a gun because that could be a scary thought and everything. By the way, I don't know if y'all talked around this. There was two other politics things, including a world politics things I wanted to get to really quickly. But just really quickly, I know as we're talking about crypto and this Donald Trump crypto and everything, there are some people that are in that space, and yes, I will ask those friends to come on your show and everything that will argue that just like there are scammers in other businesses, they will argue that there are scammers in crypto, because even the NBC has said that crypto scams stole $5.6 billion from Americans last year. So I guess that their argument is that if there's $5.6 billion stolen, that there might be some other quote unquote legitimate crypto as well. The question becomes, is all crypto a scam?
I thought about something on second debate. She should come to Trump and say, "Hi, Tiny." Say what did this? What's her name? This porno star. What was her name?
Stormy Daniels.
Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, Stormy Daniels. When Trump said in his tweet, he said that she's a horrible person or so on, and she responded, "Hello, Tiny."
Well, she came close to doing that because I thought she was going to say the a-hole word or everything. Other people have said that she thought she was going a little bit further and was going to say the MF word, but whatever word she was going to call him, she called herself, and that's hard to do in a debate. I've been on debates, I've been in debated spaces and everything, and I know that once you're in the heat of the moment, Chuck, even have it on this show, it is sometimes hard to catch yourself.
It's remarkably composed.
The fact that she had that willpower to catch herself is truly to be admired, because it takes a lot to catch yourself in the middle of those heated arguments.
Especially with the lies, awful lies that he was telling.
Right, exactly.
But you talked about crypto scams. I think scammers kind of fall into two broad categories. Long-term, like intentional scammers like Trump. Trump's been running cons for decades. Right. And then there are kind of accidental scammers who fall into it, like Sam Bankman-Fried. Like things start going wrong for somebody, like you see it with lawyers too, not just, and maybe even Bernie Madoff, where you're making good profits for a while, and then you make some bad decisions and you start losing money or run short of money, or your lifestyle puts pressure on you, and then you start borrowing from accounts that you couldn't borrow, and then you start bullshitting to cover it and pulling in more people so you get new to cover, and you dig a deeper and deeper hole until when it all falls apart for you, if you're smart like Bernie Madoff, you can keep it going for decades, but at the end you're down $40 billion.
Yeah. I have a question for Sasha. I read about today the Black Widow fighter drones that are being used in Ukraine. It seems like they have found a new, more lethal kind of defense system, and even prosecuting attacking into Russian territory. Did I read correctly?
Yes, you did. Actually, tomorrow is a very important day because finally all restrictions on Ukrainians using American and Western and NATO weapons on Russian territory. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll wait until tomorrow. At least Blinken and UK Secretary of Defense visited Kiev and had a conversation with Zelensky. And I think tomorrow is a very important day. Now, on other fronts, is Russia is desperately running out of money. There are some experts on economy. They believe that they can continue war maximum until the end of this year, 2024. And
Wow.
their economy is in shutters, and
Because the oil prices have come down so much. Or?
and that's true. That's too contributes to that. But you see, the problem is that China stopped absolutely all support of Russian currency, because before, the Russian. It's like currency exchange. They used to have dollar and euros and all other currencies. In the last several months, they had only one currency traded for rubles, was yuan from China. And they announced, I think by August 1st, I don't remember, or September 1st, China completely shut down any exchange of yuan for rubles.
I never heard of that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's tremendous.
That's tremendous news. And with that, Russia is now locked in itself. They cannot even, I don't know how they're going to pay to even countries like Iran and North Korea, whatever it might be. That's only countries that they're trading with. So now they have no options. With India, for example, they have accumulated trillions of rupees for the oil that they sold. And rupees is not convertible currency, as you know. And they will have trillions of rupees in India that they cannot take out because they are useless outside of India. And there is nothing to buy in India that Russia needs, whatever they're going to buy. So it's kind of a loss.
War.
And that's why they want, through efforts of Durov, for example, to create a new crypto that would be essentially carried out through all subscribers to Telegram.
Right.
And the subscribers of Telegram, they will become some kind of a crypto owners, and that's how the new currency, TON, by the name TON, it will become popular, and so on and on and on. But
So
again,
that's how Russia is buying from Iran right now, probably.
Probably.
I'm not sure that Iran has trading this new cryptocurrency TON or so on. But again, it's, as I said before, it's something that could be used only by terrorists, by criminals of all kinds, and that's the only purpose of this new cryptocurrency. There is no other purpose.
Like I said, different folks, different thoughts around that and everything. Just really quickly, Jim, because I was going to get to another politics topic, but just on the finance side, do people, because you're talking about how people now use crypto in the terrorism space and all along those lines. But I remember back in the day, people did the same thing with offshore banking. Do people still use offshore banking? Because I don't have an offshore banking account, but do people still use offshore banking? Is that another way to hide the money if you don't have the money per se?
What makes offshore banking different from regular banking is the only one that it hides your money from tax authorities. Otherwise, it's a normal bank, and I used to have offshore banking. banking, and the reason that terminated is that you had to pay fees to directors, to people who actually run bank accounts, or so on. And okay, it's fine for certain purposes, but if that purpose no longer exists, you're just wasting. It's 2,000-3,000 a year, and
Yeah, the average Joe doesn't
it-
need an outdoor account.
it
But
means
but
nothing. But when it's okay, New Year comes, okay, 2,000-3,000, whatever you have to pay for what?
but Sasha, to your point, that's what they. But Sasha, to your point, that's what at least what I remember from watching various documentaries and not just, and also fictional movies and everything. That was part of what the criminals, and not just the terrorist criminals, but criminals were doing with offshore banking in the past. They were doing with offshore banking what you're saying. That people are
Offshore
doing.
banking
He's right.
essentially ceased to exist. It's died about 20 years ago.
But in the past, Mark, you're absolutely right.
It's,
That was one of the purposes.
Absolutely, but the U.S. did tremendous job of approaching all these tax havens,
I agree.
Bahamas. I used to have
Cayman
company in
Islands.
Bahamas, okay, Cayman Islands, and a few other jurisdictions. It's now today. It means nothing. This offshore so-called
But
banking.
this is what crypto is different, and crypto, and again, the whole AI industry. It's a booming industry. We're on the start of it, and so our protections are not there yet. So it's rife with con men, rife with crooks, and they're going to exploit people if they can. And we've already seen that they can. The protections always lag behind, and they will catch up, but we're not there yet. So my advice is not to mess with something that dangerous unless you know what you're doing. And of course, if you know what you're doing and you're really top notch, you can. You're a fast gunslinger in the old Wild West. You're not afraid. But someone like me,
Jim, don't forget that even with the offshore accounts, even in the 90s when they were quite popular or so on, at least it was very easy to transfer money back and forth.
True.
You could get credit card issued by the bank where you keep your money in the Bahamas, for example. Okay, you get credit card and you can use credit card here and there and so on. That was a good advantage, compared to Bitcoin, where you cannot buy a loaf of
Right.
bread with Bitcoin. You cannot buy anything. You don't even have Bitcoin. You have a bunch of codes that
No,
you
but-
have to
but-
buy.
you can't be force betting with it.
Hold on a second.
together.
Your point, because another thing that tied into deregulation and crypto coins is something that the art world is very big on, and I will agree with you on that, Sasha, because I did get involved with that, because that's one of the things that I did have. Like I said, I think I had one crypto coin, but I might have had 5 or 6 NFTs and all along those lines, and some of them were some interesting NFTs. I think there was a musical NFT that I had that a friend of mine that's a Chicago composer did and sent to me and everything. But I will tell you that the coding for that is very, and they'll even tell you it's very hard because it's like these long chain letter codes, and I'll be
blockchain.
very honest, I have no idea where that code is, which is probably why I don't have any access to that NFT, because I have no idea where the heck I hit that piece of paper and everything, because it was like some long, seems like it covered up almost an entire page of papers, that many letters that they had on it and everything. So yeah, it can be very problematic.
If
Mark,
you look in,
give me 1 second. If you have NFTs and you want to go to your local bank and ask for a loan, and they will ask you to provide statement of your assets, would you include the NFTs in the list of your assets? And do you think bank would provide even
I don't think
$100?
they would honor it. No.
I don't know that they would honor it, but they might count some of the art and things. Because even my dad, who is a well-known local artist, has thought about making an NFT with some of his art, but he's chose not to do it. And like I said, he's recovering from the surgery and everything, so it's not on his mind at all right now and everything. But I knew he contemplated it and all along those lines way back then. But like a lot of people, even when we were doing this show, he was trying to learn about it, because he wasn't just going to jump into it head first without having an understanding of what he was getting into. So he didn't find a reason to do it.
Wise man.
There is another point I'd like to bring your attention to. Like anything, whether it's a stocks or any gold or just anything, whatever it makes go up in price is a demand. And if that demand outstrips supply, that whatever it's currency or Bitcoin, doesn't matter what, it will go up in price. So for Bitcoin, go much higher in price. At this point, there has to be a demand from you, from Jim, from myself, from Rick. There has to be demand. Oh, Rick gets up in the morning and says, "Oh, geez, I need a couple of bitcoins." Okay, how do I do it? I have to acquire a couple of bitcoins. So Bitcoin will go up a little bit higher, especially if there are so many people like Rick who feel horny to buy bitcoins. Yes, it will go higher in price.
It will go higher, but
But in my opinion, people, average people, normal people, like four of us here, for example, probably majority of our listeners, we don't have urge, we don't have need, we don't have anything to buy Bitcoin. So the only reason why Bitcoin will go up in price, if it will go up in price, it's because of the criminals
well,
who, who sell
but
children and human organs and so on. These people may drive up the price.
I see what you're saying, Sasha, but to that same point, and I was not the biggest fan even when he came up with it, but I'm going to use an example. One of the biggest NFT projects that existed, I actually thought, I don't know how you felt about it, Jim, but I thought it was some of the ugliest art that I've ever seen, which was that boring ape thing that they used to have out there and everything. But a lot of people bought it because they thought it was cool and everything. It was like these apes in these different kind of images. Rick, you probably have a better idea of what I'm talking about, but it was not the most appealing piece of artwork and everything. But then again, Andy Warhol made a whole living off of soup cans.
Mark, remember, there is a sucker born every minute. But I would say those who are involved in crypto, it's every second, not every minute.
So if you look on Twitter, there's a huge overlap between MAGAs and crypto and NFT people. And then if you look in their profiles, they all say no DMs, don't bug me with DMs, which means that I don't get any DMs except if I know somebody. But it means that those people, if somebody's a scammer and they see somebody's a MAGA and they see that they're into crypto, that tells the scammer this is an easy target. They're a sucker. So
yeah. Well, the other thing I was going to get to, just to switch slightly in the world politics, since we're on the World Politics Show, I was trying to get to it on World Edition, and we did not get to it and everything. There is a major ally that apparently is in a leadership vacuum. And I know you study the news, Jim, and I guess you do as well, Rick, and I know, Sasha, you do and everything. But how do we need to pay attention? And if we need to pay attention, how do we need to pay attention to what's going on in Japan? Because I understand that they've got a leadership vacuum and somebody's going to come up, whether it's a conservative or a liberal, and it's like 6 people that are going for the job and everything. So I just wonder, as people that are in the West, because a lot of times other countries pay attention to us, and I think we need to pay attention to other countries. And the last time I checked, Japan was one of our major allies and everything. So, Jim, what is your take on this leadership vacuum that apparently is happening in that major ally of ours?
Well, Japan is, as I just took a trip there, and I went out with the Stanford group, and we were lectured to by a Stanford professor, and I learned a great deal. One of Japan's troubles is they have a deficit, the national deficit that's difficult, and there's also an aging population. They have an aging population that's no longer going to work, and the young people are moving to the urban environments, don't want to do the rice farming and the things that their parents may have done. So there's a lot of change going on in Japan, but the Japan that I know, the Japan today, shares a lot of values with the United States, and is one of those allies that we really need. And there's a lot of tension around China in the South Seas, and Japan can play a role with that. And North Korea is lobbing missiles over Japan, so we could be drawn into something with Japan. But the leadership vacuum will be filled, and that. Unfortunately, it's like there's no real easy answer to a large national debt and an aging population. Nobody is going to be able to solve that. There isn't a magic wand that you can wave.
But every country, 3/4 of the world's countries are Japan's ahead of us, but we've got an aging population. And by 2050, 75% of the world's nations, every place but Africa, will have declining birth rates, aging populations. And we know from Japan and just from common sense that you need a lot of caretakers, and that those gaps will be filled with robots. It's happening over there. It's going to happen here. And we're going to have to figure out how to have, like growth papers over a lot of crappiness in your economy. And we're going to have to, all the countries of the world are going to have to figure out how to do non-growth economies.
Hey, along those same lines, hey, Sasha, just really quickly, one of the things that came up in the politics and in the debate is this notion of tariffs on everybody, including our allies, because I know that's one of the things that Trump was floating out there and everything. So was this going to be a strain on our relationship? Like I said, Japan, along with Australia, and I think Shaquille calls them the Five Ice Nations, are definitely the ones that we pay attention to and everything like that. So is this going to put a strain on us if he was to win, and hopefully he won't, and there's this tariff notion, or even if Kamala comes in and puts tariffs, because there's this notion of tariffs.
Put a strain on American people.
Yeah, tariffs are not the answer. They never have been. They passed on to American consumers. It's a bogus idea.
It's horrible idea because, let's see a product. Let's see a car, for example, just to make it simple. Car is coming from Japan. The cost of that car, which is very well made electric vehicle, let's see, it's cost $12,000. So you start to put tariffs and profits for dealers and all this stuff, and all of a sudden that car will cost you $30,000. Okay, so which will allow Elon Musk to be competitive. Is it good for Elon Musk? Yes, it's good. Is it good for American consumers? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, Jim, along those same lines, because I know y'all talked about it on Modern Investment. That friend that I think I might have referenced on this show, I know I've referenced it a couple of times today and everything. He drives a Tesla. He loves his Tesla and everything. So I was just wondering, are we going to see more people with Teslas? Because when we went out for lunch, and the gentleman even praised him for his like lemon-colored Tesla and everything. So are we going to see more people with Teslas? And if so, how they're going to manage this? Because as I said on one of our shows, it might have been that investment show, I don't know how you can get past changing from gas stations to electric vehicle charging stations without.
Well, I drive a Tesla now, and I must say that now that there's more competition out there, if I had to buy another electric vehicle, I probably would not. Well, watching the Elon Musk show as I have, just what he did to Twitter, he wanted to make it open and all this stuff. That's what he said. But what he did was ban journalists and ban people that disagreed with him. So he's not my favorite guy in the world, and I wouldn't give him my business again. But there's the electronic vehicles are here to stay. There's no question about that. The infrastructure to support them is being built, and I think there's trouble with battery storage and battery recycling and those types of things. But those are solvable problems. Those are problems that will be solved.
If you live near a big California city, you're fine with charging stations. There are some, if you live in South Dakota, no. But $7 billion was allocated. You hear Nick bitching about this all the time, that eventually enough charging stations will be built across the country that most people won't have a problem. But with specifically,
I haven't been in a gas station for 5 years.
And my friend Martin hasn't been in one in a while because he charges his car, and he actually is a photographer, and his wife is a real estate agent, so he actually travels literally all over North Carolina, and they're from Florida, so they go back and forth. So he does quite a bit of traveling, what I'm trying to say, on a regular basis, because he's doing real estate photography for himself, his wife, and some of their other clients as well, and everything. So he definitely gets around, and as does his wife, but they charge on like a rotating basis, like he might charge in the morning.
Jim, I would like to ask you, is that the reason that you haven't been for 5 years on the gas stations, that the stock of Occidental Petroleum is going down every day?
Oh, I can't take credit for that or the blame.
But Mark, you originally asked, are people going to buy more Teslas? And there are several factors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one is, are there going to be subsidies? You used to get $20 grand for buying an e-vehicle. Right. 2, the overall price. 3, what James was talking about, which is, Elon Musk used to look like a genius. Then he bought Twitter. Then we started learning more about frickin' Trump. I mean, well, all right. I mean, Elon Musk is Trump, but he's very. Anyway, we learned more about Musk, and he seems kind of unsavory in a lot of ways.
Right.
So, and four, if you live in a place with a lot of Teslas, like where Jim lives or where I live, you can see that a lot of Tesla drivers are kind of dicks. And it used to be Audi drivers. But there's always in LA and up north, there's always one type of car that all the dicks gravitate to. And for a while, it was, it was Teslas. And like, if you see enough a-holes driving Teslas, maybe you're like, I don't know. But also, I mean, it's a mix of a-holes and people who like cool technology. So it's.
I mean, that's
I
why
think-
I got it. And
But
I had a Prius before it, but I also
think
got
Martin likes the
guys
cool
who buy
technology.
solar panels. So
There are plenty of other e-car brands
now they're
Yeah,
definitely.
there are other bands. It was interesting when we went to lunch, me and my friend Martin, because some people were doing street work, and Teslas can also be somewhat big. They're not like super big, but it was interesting because he was thinking that he wasn't going to be able to get through the crowd of the workers, but he did manage to get through without scratching it, because those Teslas are
Well, this is one of my pet
So
peeves. Rick knows that I like to go into pet peeves, and it's like Tesla, the charging stations, it doesn't have a standard charging port, so you have to have a special Tesla charging station or an adapter, which I own. But it's the same thing with why can't you charge your iPhone on the same things as everybody else, and you have to have special gadgets, and it's just to make you buy more stuff. And so I love Apple. I bought my first computer was an Apple IIe. I've been involved with Apple as a user for decades. But these types of things drive me up the wall. Standardize this stuff. Come on.
But Jim, along the time, I saw your hand,
Mark.
and Rick. But just real quick, I'm going to make a quick comment. But I saw both of your hands, Jim. Along those same lines, I'm convinced to this day that there is not an accident that people wind up losing their phones, because I'm convinced that they make the phones more slippery through the wear of time, and that's why a lot of people wind up breaking their phones and having cracked phones that we see all over the country and everything.
Okay, with all Nick is complaining about this charging stations, I was thinking about if you would allow Chinese to sell their electric cars, which are very well made, by the way, and China is #1 producer of electric cars in the world, and ask for doing that, China would have to build electric station all over the United States. Hundreds of thousands of it, like on every corner, like gas stations, on every corner there will be electric charging station. And China will do it for free. And they will say, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are going to do it, or so on. And they will invest, billions of dollars. It doesn't matter to them. They will do it in order to sell their cars. So that would be a great deal for the United States, because for consumers, they will have access to pretty good cars and very affordable price. They will have charging stations. Now, the notion that, you will allow China to control United States and all this stuff. What control? Charging station and this electric cars, what kind of control are you talking about?
Right.
So if you're a bad or inattentive driver, you maybe don't want to buy a Tesla or other e-vehicle, because they don't make noise. They go vish, and people don't know to get out of the way. And also, Tesla has all this self-driving technology that only maybe 1/3 works.
I don't use it at all.
You're going to run somebody over.
Yeah, and that's what he was worried about and everything. Just really quickly, and then we've only got about another few minutes, and we've got Coco Show, which is usually music oriented, which comes after us on world politics and all along those lines. But the other thing, since we're having pick on Nick Day and everything that he complains about and all along those lines, is the notion of internet for all. I actually don't have a problem with internet for all, because I think a lot of people that are in the country need internet for all. I think you agree with me, Rick, and everything. But I know that sometimes he is of this notion that we're spending too much money and that you don't need the internet if you live in Lincoln, Nebraska, or some of those other farm areas.
You might need it even more then.
Huh?
You might need it even more then. And plus, it's an educational tool for the children. And we have Nick represents the elitist country club Republican that thinks that you need to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, and nothing should be handed to you. You have to earn it, that sort of stuff. But these are things that are social goods that we can provide. And if it could help people, this is why we have food programs in schools, even though there's a lot of pushback now going on about that. But kids can't learn when they're hungry. Kids can't learn when they can't access the internet. They'll be left behind.
Yeah,
And
when Nick
what do we
plays
want?
the no high speed internet for people who live, when he plays that tune, the tune I play is we need a hyper educated population to compete with China and eventually India. The reason America has owned the world for the past 70 years, we came out of World War II with the rest of the world in ruins, and we owned half the world's manufacturing, and that kept us on top for a while. But then Russia, 1957, put up Sputnik, the first satellite. The U.S. shit its pants, and the government said we have to compete. We have to get
man on the moon.
We have to educate everybody in math and science.
Yeah.
And the people educated in that push are today's tech billionaires and the people who gave us all the iPhone and everything we use. And it shouldn't take another war to push us to educate our people, but that is the way. So that includes high-speed internet. That includes fuck the Republicans who want to take school lunches away, who want to take funding away from public schools. No, inexpensive, widely available education is the key, is the difference between the U.S. staying at or near the top, or us falling aside, like the also ran has-been countries like Italy used to run the world, Spain, England. If we screw up now in the next 20 years,
Netherlands,
it's still nice to live in Italy, Spain, England,
of course,
but they don't rule the world.
That's very much true and everything. We've only got a few more minutes, so I'm actually going to jump off the screen. But Jim and Sasha, if y'all have like about a minute or a minute and a half each that you want to have some closing thoughts and everything along that line, so I'm going to let y'all end the show and everything. So I'll start with you, Jim, and then Sasha can totally close it out. But a minute and a half or whatever your closing thoughts are. And then
I've got a question for Sasha.
Sasha is done.
Okay. Sasha, I want you to tell me, why hasn't Israel gotten rid of Bibi? I mean, I've been asking for this for a long time. Netanyahu is a far right, and the group of supporters that he has in his government now are far right. They've been doing so much to upset other settlers and other countries surrounding them. And I'm absolutely, Israel has the right to defend itself, no question about it. But I think that he has been causing much of the trouble. And if they just had a different leader who wanted to make peace instead of prove his point or stay out of jail, which might be one reason why he wants to retain power. But won't Israel kick him out sooner rather than later?
I would say is if it wouldn't be war, there would be election, and most likely he wouldn't be able to remain as a prime minister, because nobody can really get majority in Israel. There are so many parties.
Yes.
Sorry, parties. So he
coalition government,
built coalition and so on, and probably Netanyahu is by nature he's very gifted leader.
Yes.
And he proved it for so many years. But I think people are getting tired of him, and he wouldn't be able to remain prime minister. What's the problem is that now it's a wartime for Israel. It's a real serious war.
You don't make changes in war.
And what's happening is that you cannot do these changes during the war. And as a matter of fact, he is supported by all his cabinet, which is specifically was appointed a war cabinet, and he's supported about 100%. And Israeli people, almost 100%, they support him as a prime minister while the war lasts. Once the war will be over, it's a different story. But while the war lasts, he is there, popularity.
And he has no incentive to end the war.
Israel doesn't need incentive to finish the war. They have to finish Hamas before they end the war. There is no
You know,
end
Ben-
to war before Hamas will be completely eradicated until the very last person. Although Israel make actually the proposal that I forgot his name, whoever is the head of Hamas, that they would allow him to leave wherever he's hiding. He's hiding now in a women's dress, and it's complete disgrace. And anyway, Israel made an offer for him that they would allow him to leave Palestine, Gaza, unharmed.
So eventually, you're going to run out of Hamas fighters.
Yeah.
They started with 30,000. They got to be well under 10,000 by now, and maybe even down to 8,000. And when you get down to, I don't know, under 4,000 or 5,000,
Still too much.
The outcome, you know, in terms of the conflict is going to be the same, and how long it takes is going to be different, and how long Netanyahu stays in power is going to be different. But the outcome is, that Hamas will be crushed, and then they have to make the right decision, of which nobody ever has with regards to Gaza in the past 70 years. They've had crappy, corrupt leadership. Nobody wanted to step in and do a proper occupation. I don't know. So the follow-up is the key to whether they come up with a decent solution. And looking at the past, that they'll screw it up this time too.
Netanyahu is a great speaker.
We'll have more conversation about that on World Edition as well as World Politics next week and everything. But I appreciate all of you. I thought this was a good conversation, and we'll be back tomorrow. And other shows are going on right now. We're talking music.
Bye.
Very shortly. So thank you. We'll see you later.